did just get some new information into CNN. The mother of the shooter was interviewed by CNN affiliate Televisa. Listen to what she had to say.
I have no words. I have no words to say. I don't know what he was thinking. He had his reasons for doing what he did, and please don't judge him. I only want the innocent children who died to forgive me.
What do you tell their families?
Forgive me. Forgive my son. I know he had his reasons.
What reasons could he have had?
To get closer to those children, instead of paying attention to the other bad things. I have no words. I don't know.
Only grief here.
All right, guys. So as you just saw there, that was the mother of Salvador Ramos, who is the mass shooter that went to a elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, and shot and killed 19 kids and 2 teachers. Now, she is speaking out on the situation, asking for forgiveness for her and her son, and basically saying that he had his reasons for committing this atrocity. Now, allegedly, you know, if you look at other different versions of the translation of the things she said, maybe she didn't necessarily say it like that. Maybe she said something like, you know, he had things on his mind. Okay, there were things on his mind. Maybe there was something wrong with his mind. There was something wrong with his head, and that's why he did it. But regardless, she's basically, you know, saying, hey, you know, I want forgiveness, and I feel so bad about this, and, you know, feeling despair and grief for what happened. Okay. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because not much focus has been put on the parents, okay? Because in my opinion, we need to focus more on that, because we have a culture problem in the United States of America, and part of that culture problem is single parent households. It is the broken family, okay? A lot of these mass shooters, a lot of them do have mental health issues. However, a lot of them also at the same time have broken families, which may be contributing to their mental health issues, okay? Look at Daryl Brooks, the guy that committed the atrocity of running over grandmas in Waukesha. He had a single parent household, single mother. Dylan Roof, okay? Single parent household. Adam Lanza, the guy that committed the Sandy Hook mass shooting, single parent household. The list goes on, okay? And it appears that Salvador Ramos, the guy who committed the mass shooting in Uvalde, it seems like his father wasn't necessarily around as much as he should have been as well. And I think this is something that we got to start to talk about in this country. This is an issue that we have to address, because I feel like this is the reason why we have a lot of the problems that we have in this country, is because of fatherlessness. Okay, for as much as people want to talk about, you know, gun control, or even, you know, having armed security, there was a time in this country, right, particularly before the 1990s, in which, you know, everybody had guns, right, but school shootings like this were unheard of. Okay, it was very, very, very rare, right? And for whatever reason, something happened that made it so these things became a lot more common, right? And I think part of that could be the fact that, you know, nearly 20 to 30% of families are single parent families, okay? And we know for a fact that having fatherless homes contributes to violence. That's the reason why we're seeing a whole lot of this violence in our inner cities, because a lot of these kids simply don't have fathers. So with that being said, let's actually read about this guy's father, okay? Because he's going to say some things that I think are really, really, really just unfortunate, okay, about the situation and his role, or the lack of role that he played in his child's life before he committed this atrocity. So let's read here. The distraught father of 18-year-old Texas school shooter Salvador Ramos was photographed in public for the first time Thursday since his son killed 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School earlier in the week. The photo showed the teary-eyed 42-year-old father, also named Salvador Ramos, embracing a visitor on his front porch on the same day he broke silence about his son's massacre. Quote, "I never expected my son to do something like that," the father had said in an interview with the Daily Beast. Quote, he should have just killed me, you know, instead of doing something like that to someone. The elder Ramos also apologized for his son's horrific actions. The father told the Daily Beast that he had not been in his son's life much in months before the massacre, which he said was due to his job away from Uvalde and the pandemic. He said he had also been away from his son due to the pandemic, as he did not want to expose his own mother, who is suffering from cancer, to the virus. The COVID-19 restrictions strained the duo's relationship, with his son refusing to speak to him about a month ago. So here's the thing. This is interesting because, you know, this father is saying that, look, I wasn't in my son's life due to COVID. I was afraid of catching COVID and then giving it to my own mother who has cancer. Now, I know that is a tough situation, okay? You have your own mother who has cancer, right? But you have to balance that and spending time with your son. I think, just in my opinion, I think you have to find a way to still spend time with your son, especially, you know, if you're aware that your son may have some of these issues, right? You have to be in your son's life despite the whole COVID stuff, okay? And I just don't see this as a solid excuse for not being there. Again, I'm not trying to judge too hard. I'm not trying to be too harsh. I get it. This guy's probably, again, grieving just like everybody else. He's probably distraught. Like, you know, I get it, right? But this whole COVID-19 excuse thing for not being in his son's life, especially considering how not being there, he knows, put a strain on the relationship. It's tough, right? It's just one of those things where I just have a hard time really feeling sympathetic for him over this, because I just don't see that as an excuse. But I get it. It's a tough situation. He maintained that his son was a good person who was bullied at school over his clothes, which is why he dropped out. Quote, he was a quiet person, stuck to himself. He didn't bother nobody. People were always bothering him, the father said. Again, all the more reason why you should have been in your son's life. But with that being said, bullying is not an excuse to commit a mass shooting, right? It's not an excuse to do that. And I hate when people bring that up when, you know, they talk about these instances, right? When these people go crazy and they commit these atrocities at school, because none of those elementary school kids that this guy killed bullied him, right? They didn't bully him. There was no harm to this guy. They did not deserve what happened to them. So let's throw the bullying thing out the window. I don't want to hear about that. Okay, don't get me wrong. I think bullying is a serious problem in these schools. Okay, I think bullying does contribute to some of these kids becoming radicalized. But ultimately, bullying is still not an excuse to commit a tragedy like this, especially against elementary school kids who had nothing to do with the bullying this guy was experiencing, right? And you as a father, you're supposed to be there. If you know that your son was getting bullied, that's all the more reason why you should be there to support him, right? And to make sure that he's mentally stable and able to, you know, go to school and to do the things that, you know, he needs to do in order for him to be a productive citizen in society, right? To guide him through the adversity that he's going through, right? He also mentioned that he was bullied because he was poor, he didn't have a lot of clothes or whatever. And again, I found that to be interesting because this guy had enough money, I don't know, to buy a rifle, okay, to buy weapons, okay, $1,000 worth of weapons. Where did he get that money from? I mean, I worked a minimum wage job when I was in high school, okay, working for $7.25, and it was very, very, very difficult for me to save $1,000. I don't think I've actually ever saved $1,000 when I was a teenager, right? At most, I would save maybe a couple of hundred. So unless this guy was really, really, really saving, okay, and if he was that poor, I find it hard to believe he was really, really saving. Or maybe he was working a lot, right? Maybe he was working a job in which, you know, because he wasn't in school, he was able to, you know, save enough money to do this. I don't know, okay? But regardless, that's not an excuse. Being poor is not an excuse. Getting bullied is not an excuse. This is not a, like, you know, stealing from somebody, right? You're not committing a crime out of necessity here. This guy committed this crime because either he had some mental issues or he was just an evil person. Probably both, right? I mean, that's tend to be what I lean towards, you know, when it comes to people that commit these types of atrocities. There's a lot of mentally ill people in this country that don't commit these type of crimes, right? And I think it's kind of disservice to them to automatically label some of these mass shooters as mentally ill when, in fact, They might just be evil, right? Or they could be both, okay? So let's read a little bit more here and we'll be done with this. Ramos shot his 60-year-old grandmother in the face before he stormed into the Uvalde school 4th grade classroom and opened fire in one of the deadliest mass shootings in Texas history. Yeah, so with that being said, again, we have a factor here at play that we see all too often when it comes to people who commit violent crimes. It is fatherlessness, right? Not having a man in the household to show this young man how to be a man, to be there to support him emotionally and to guide him through the adversities that he was facing in life. And I hope and I believe that if his father was there, then hopefully, you know, this tragedy would not have happened, okay? And I think this is something that we got to talk about more. We got to focus on more because it is so often a common factor in these violent crimes that we see going on across this country. The person that commits the crime, oh, they was raised by a single mother, okay? They was raised in a household where their father wasn't there, right? But again, the progressive left, again, for as much as they want to talk about solutions, they never want to bring that up. They never want to bring up the fatherlessness crisis in this country, okay, that contributes to a lot of this violence that we're seeing. In fact, they're totally fine with trying to disrupt the nuclear family, right? They want to take the father out of the household. They want to take down the patriarchy because the patriarchy is bad, okay? And violent crime is what you get when you try to take down a patriarchy and when you try to remove the man from his rightful place as the head of the household. And that is a cultural issue that we most definitely have to address. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.